You can create your own workflows without code by using SharePoint Designer 2010. SharePoint Designer 2010 is a free download from Microsoft, and once it's installed, you can open it up and tell it to connect to a particular SharePoint site. So I'm going to open an existing site, and I'm going to give it the address of a team site that I have, and click Open. SharePoint Designer is really used for several different reasons. Changing the look of SharePoint sites, creating custom pages and custom data connections, but a big piece of it is the idea of creating custom workflows. Now, if you notice on the left-hand side, we basically have a breakdown of what the site is made of. Our lists and libraries, for example, our site pages, and we have a section called Workflows. What it's telling me right now is the 3 SharePoint workflows that are available out of the box. Again, this is if you have SharePoint Server, and also if your administrator has made sure that these workflows are enabled, because they can be turned off. But I'm not interested in any of these. I'm actually interested in making a custom workflow for a custom situation. I'm going to create a simple example of a problem that I might be having in this site. Let's say right now I have 2 document libraries, one called Shared Documents, which is kind of generic, and one called HR Policies. And perhaps the policy documents library has versioning on it, has a lot of content control. It might even have other workflows on it. It might have things like auditing and expiration. And I'm worried because perhaps people have been uploading policy documents into the wrong place. So what I'm going to do is create a workflow on my shared documents library to check that any new document might not have the word policy in it. And if it does, I'm going to move it to a different library. Again, this is a simple example, but should show you the kind of way that we start to interact with SharePoint Designer. So going back into SharePoint Designer, I'm going to go into Workflows and create a new one. My choices up here are a list workflow, which is specific to a particular list or library. Again, lists and libraries in SharePoint, really the same thing. Reusable workflow, which could be applied to multiple lists and libraries, or a site workflow applying to the entire site. I'm interested in the most common type, which is the list workflow. This list workflow is going to be applied to my shared documents library. So I'll click that. It's going to ask me which list does this apply to. Let's find shared documents. There we go. And give it a name. I'm going to call it Check for Policies. So this workflow checks for documents that might be policies and moves them to the HR Policies document library. Click OK. Then what? Well, all workflows are a series of tasks and questions, so I can ask things about the documents. I've got the message here, step 1, what do we want to do? I can start typing, or it says use the insert group in the ribbon, which is this group up here. That means I can start off by performing some actions, or I can check for some conditions. It's really up to you. Your actions might start off with sending email. It might start off with logging a message to the workflow history list. There's all sorts of things you could do here. I'm going to do a condition first, and if I click this little drop down, it gives me a few fairly specific examples. Do I want to check if it's created by a specific person, or the person is a valid SharePoint user, or it has a certain file size, or the title field contains certain keywords? Well, that looks like a good one here. I'll go with title field contains keywords. That immediately drops in this entry for step 1, and keywords is underlined because I need to click it to say what those keywords might be. I'm going to say if the title field contains the word policy, well, then what? Well, on the next step, we could either perform an action or we could check something else. Well, actually, here I've got a little bit of a problem, because if the title field contains the word policy, it is actually case sensitive here. So I need to ask another if statement, and really I'm going to check it again. I'm going to say, and the title field contains keywords. Well, no, it's not an and. I want to click that to change it to or the title field contains the word policy in lowercase. Now, in fact, the thing to be aware of here is that when you upload a document to a document library, you both have a title field and you have a name field. And the name field is the actual file name by default. So if your file name is expensespolicy.doc, that would be the name, not the title. So I need to think a little more about this. And then I need to actually check for something else. I'm going to ask another condition. I'm going to keep going with my conditions here. And if I look down here, I don't have the idea that the name field contains a certain keyword, but up here I've got a bit more generic ones. If the current item field equals value, what they mean by here, if some field in the current item, meaning the item that caused the workflow to happen, equals some value, and that's actually what I want. It looks a little generic, but there's a lot of things you're going to pick this option for. So I'll select that, and it's first going to say, and fields equals value. Well, no, it's another or situation here, but it doesn't know what I'm talking about here. Well, the field, what field could I be using? Or when I click that, it gives me all the fields that this current item has. Approval status, check-in, comment, content type, who it was created by, what the URL is. And as I keep coming down, we've got name. That's the one I'm interested in. Or the name equals, well, it's not an equals I want. Again, I'm going to click that. Got all these options, is not equal to, begins with, ends with, does not end with, contains is what I want. That will work there. And one last condition just to work on my case sensitivity here. Same kind of thing. Or the current item name contains the word policy in lowercase. So a bit of a long-winded condition, but gives you the idea of how I would start to string some of these together. And the question is then, what do I want to do? Well, what I'd like to do is actually move the current item, whatever it is caused this workflow to happen, move it to another location. So I'm going to click on this entry here. It'll say start typing, and let's say I start the word move. Well, it doesn't seem to have any results there. So maybe that's not what I'm looking for. How else might I look? Well, I'm going to delete that, and instead of typing something in, I'm going to use this action drop-down, which gives me all the possible things I could do. Do I want to add a comment? Nope. Do a calculation? Nope, don't want to do that. Send an email? Well, maybe, but in a moment. Send a document to a repository? Nope, don't want to do that either. Check something in, check it out, copy it. Okay, that doesn't look like there's a move, but there looks like there's a copy. And there looks like there's a delete, so I could do a bit of a combination there. And sometimes you'll find that in SharePoint Designer, that you have to be a bit thoughtful about what you're trying to do. So there isn't a move option, but there is a copy and a delete option. If I look down a little further, we've got a whole bunch of other things that we could do, but I'm going to pick that one. Copy the list item. It's going to say copy item in this list. Well, what do we want to copy? The default is the current item. Yes, that's what I want, but you could copy something else. And where's the location? Well, I want to take it from my shared documents library and put it in my HR policies library. Okay, looks good. We've got the item now copied. But that's not everything. I still want to go a bit further. So underneath there, I'm going to actually do something else. Again, I could pick it from the drop down here. Or if I wanted to, I could start typing. I think there was something with the word delete. And as I start typing here, it seems to say, yep, there's 3 results with the word delete. Press enter to view. So I'll hit that. Delete draft, delete item, delete previous versions. I want to delete the item. And you might be thinking, well, you just copied it, so which one will you be deleting? Well, I want to delete the current item because I copied it to somewhere else. I want to delete the original one. And then finally, what I'm going to do, clicking underneath it, and be careful where you click to make sure you're in the right place, I'm going to send an email. So I type in send an email, yep. Because I'd like to point out to whoever just uploaded that document that they're not meant to do that. So email these users. I'll click the link these users and it says, well, who's this to? Well, of course, right now I don't know who it's to. It could be a whole bunch of different people would be moving and uploading documents. So I can't type an explicit email address unless I just wanted to notify a specific person. But by clicking the little address book, I can see I've got a whole bunch of options here. Is it the administrator? Is it the system account? Is it the people in the owners group or the members group or the visitors group? But we have a pretty interesting one here. The user who created the current item. Fine, I don't need to know exactly who it is because whoever caused this workflow to be kicked off, it's going to be sent to them. I could CC somebody else in particular, so I'm going to type in a subject here. Don't upload policy documents to shared documents, and I could just give them a quick message. So I give them just a quick message here, but let's say they just uploaded 10 documents and they can't remember which one they did where. I might give them a little hint. So I'd like to say you uploaded a policy document and tell them which one it was. And the thing that I can do is click in that position. So you uploaded a policy document and I'll give them the name of the document. I'm going to click this little button here called Add or Change Lookup. That's going to inject some options into our page. It's going to say, okay, we're bringing it from the current item. Yes, we are. And what field were we interested in? Well, the default one, or the best one here, would be the name field, because that will be the name of the document file itself. Click OK, and I'm going to click OK. Now, very commonly here too, what you'd also want to do at a lot of these cases is you'd probably want to log something to the workflow history list, because without doing that, there'd be no record that this actually occurred. So I'll do that one as well. I'll click in there. Under my action, I can see I've got an option here in the core action section, very common one called log to history list. Just log a simple message, and I won't go too crazy here. I could do lots of lookup, but I'm just going to say a document was moved to the HR policies document library. I still have the button that I could add or change lookup, meaning I could inject some information about it, such as its URL, but I'm not going to bother doing that. So I think I'm done right now. Again, a very simple workflow. You can go much more complex than that. This would be just step one, but I could ask more questions. I could actually put in other steps. I can have parallel blocks and else if branches. What if it didn't include the word policy? Maybe I want to check something else. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. And we're just touching the surface of it here. I'm going to go over here on the ribbon to the Check for Errors button, and it tells me the workflow contains no errors. Seems good. I'm going to save it. In a moment, what I need to do is publish it, but there's something I want to check first. I'm inside the workflow here, but I've got a few things that I can do, such as the workflow settings. Because on the workflow settings, we have some of the start options. When do I begin this workflow? Well, the last one that we did allowed the workflow to be manually started. That's not what I want here. I want this workflow to be automatically started when an item is created. It's given me some other options here, which if I was creating tasks, which I'm not, they put them in the task list. If I was creating any workflow history, which I am doing, it's going to go to the workflow history list. And I think I'm done. I'm going to hit save and publish. This will package up this workflow and basically upload it into the SharePoint site onto that particular library. I can now close down SharePoint Designer. And then what? Well, I'm in the Shared Documents library. I don't want to kick anything off manually. I don't want to touch workflow. So that's not something I'm interested in here. I just want to be able to do something like go to the document library here, and I'm going to upload a document. I'm going to upload it into the wrong place. I'm going to browse. And luckily, I have something out there called an expenses policy document. I'm going to try that guy. Click Open and click OK. Now, it uploaded it there, but let's actually see something. I'm just going to hit my browse window and refresh the library. That document has pretty much instantly disappeared, which is kind of what I was hoping for. And in fact, if I look over here in HR policies, yep, it's been moved to that other location and deleted from the original. And indeed, I would have been sent an email at the same time saying that that had happened. Now, the only challenge that you have is the normal way now of looking at your workflow history doesn't really exist, because workflow didn't happen on this item in this library. It happened on the copied version of it in the previous library, which now doesn't exist anymore. So I might want to think about, well, did I really want to delete that document, or perhaps I just wanted to add a note to it? If I wanted to go back into SharePoint Designer, I can do. Finding it under my SharePoint section, I can go back to that recent site that I just opened. Go back into my workflows section, find the 3 pre-existing ones, and there's the one that I had created, and I can go into it, click Edit Workflow, and actually start manipulating this again. And it's a good idea if you're building complex workflows to always do them kind of piece by piece. Do them very slowly, logging information to the history list, because if you try and build a huge workflow from scratch and it doesn't work, they can be a bit of a pain to debug. Now, obviously, we're just touching the surface here. There's a lot more complexity that you can do with workflow, but without code, we're managing to describe business processes, we're moving files around, we're sending emails, We can be changing options on those list items and those library items. So a very powerful piece of SharePoint.